Hi, I'm doing a video today about like the fridge ice situation. And first I'm going to talk about like what is ideal or semi-ideal. It's not ideal perfectly because basically it doesn't keep the fridge cold at all times. But what I've been trying to do is have ice brought, say like on Monday, and then again on Thursday, that kind of thing. And so I would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I don't have ice, but by Thursday it's still pretty good. During the middle of the week it's like cold. It's real cold and blustery. And it's gray, cold and blustery, and it's very cold in here, and there's no heat, there's heat required during the day and at night. Over the weekend it's very, very, very hot in here, and cooling's required, or it's just stifling. It gets into the 90s in here. So it's very, very different. And it's always pretty much that schedule. During the week cold, weekends hot. And then I would get ice Thursday, and then I would go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with no ice till Monday I get more. So the long stretch is over the weekend because it's harder to get like volunteers and stuff over the weekend. They don't work, so they only do Monday through Friday. So basically I'm doing the ice fill up, and the way it works is here you can see 2 each 10-pound bags of ice and 2 crisper drawers. You can see fill it up to the top, but not above the top because then I can't slide the drawers in. So you see there's a picture of the bottom of my fridge, 1 and 2 crisper drawers. And then you see the drawer there in the drawing here. You see the drawer, let me see here. You see the drawer, and you see the drawer going under the shelf. And then there's 2 bowls. It was originally 2 bowls, but one of them got cracked in the ice filling process. And so there's a bowl and one of my cooking pots. And those bowls go up into the freezer part, the bottom of the freezer part. And they get mounded. So they get mounded so that the ice is sticking up, because it doesn't have to go in it. There has to be enough room for it to get under the shelf, but other than that, enough so it's not so full that it melts and causes a flood either. And I basically have to use both hands because I have problems holding things. And then the leftover ice from the 2 10-pound bags of ice go in like a little plastic bread tray that goes in the middle of my fridge. And then the other thing is shopping. It has to be twice a week, because like if I get a bell pepper Tuesday, then and cut it up and keep cutting from it and making salads from it, then by Thursday it's kind of slimy and yucky and a little bit off, to eat. So even though there's some ice cooling, it's not as cool as, say, a fridge gets. You don't have that cool temperature that, kills a lot of things, like a normal fridge that's between 32 and 35 degrees or whatever they get. We're talking here more like, 40, 50. So it's a lot not as cool. So what I'm going to do real fast now that it's cooled down is I'm going to actually open the door so I can show you what I have here. There's pan 1, there's my bee pollen against it, and pan 2, and the ice and the shelf. And that shelf can stay pretty cold, and then I'll put things on that to, cool off from the metal. And then you can see how there, you can round it a little bit because there's room to fit it under the shelf. Down here, the ice has to be even with the top of the crisper trays so that these can slide in and out. And then the extra ice goes on the center there, and it melts. And so the more sensitive foods, you see, I did not get food this week. The person did not, the volunteer, and that's like another issue. I'm going to close the door while I talk. But that's another issue. The volunteer didn't show up this week. this Friday, or I think it was, yeah, Friday. It was going to be Tuesday and Friday this week. And so he didn't show up, and they didn't send me another volunteer. I would say I've spent, between my caseworker and Colin trying to call for volunteers and the whole thing, I've been very, very, very sick this week. And I've been in bed, and I've just been in bed crying because the pain has been so bad. And then I've spent like 37 hours or more on the phone calling, trying to find out what is going to happen, because they're saying they don't want to send volunteers, and they've got one excuse, and then my caseworker calls them, and then they come up with a different excuse, and then they're like, well, we really want to cut her and not have her at all because she doesn't buy enough groceries. But, you know, if I buy a whole week's full of groceries, then I'm going to have to throw half of it out because it's going to go bad in there. You know, in other words, if I get all my groceries on a Tuesday, and then I still need ice on Thursday, but if I get it all, if I don't get ice, then it spoils for sure. And if I do get ice, you know, it's still bad by Thursday, so I need to, like, replenish that bell pepper, replenish the mushrooms, things like that. Lettuce is tricky. So it definitely takes, and with the stuff that sits out, like if I use a tomato, for example, that's kind of a big tomato, but if I use a tomato and can't use all of it, or if I have too many, I could even throw one, like with a normal situation, in the freezer. Or if I have too many bananas, I throw 2 of them in the freezer and use them for smoothies. But in this case, they end up wasted, and I don't have money to waste. I don't even have money to eat, you know, the normal amount of meals a day. So I'm left with like one meal. Like I'm going to have like a little tiny drink with banana and some peanut butter in it today, and that's all I'm going to have today. And then tomorrow I'm going to have oatmeal with some celery in it and a little bit of fermented vegetables and some seeds, and that'll be my meal for tomorrow. So it's like that for, 2 or 3 days. I do that because that pays for the things that I have to pay out of my pocket because they won't take Medicare here. And then the third day I'll have like the scoop of cottage cheese and the Budwig diet thing with some blueberries for one meal. And the second meal will be like a couple scrambled eggs and some vegetables. So it's really important that I get the full nutrients that I get, raw or almost raw, or cooked, plant-based, really healthy stuff, because that's all I get. And actually, in that case, I'm probably getting more nutrients than the average American. But then, food doesn't come, and I don't have food to make those things, then I'm down to, like, nothing, which is kind of like what you saw in there, a piece of a pepper, and, the cottage cheese, and I've had some berries there that they're going to go into the next cottage cheese, the next Budwig thing. Because there's plenty of ice, so in 2 days it'll be okay, I think. And then by Monday night, after I've eaten those berries, I think the fridge is going to be kind of gone overnight that night. But that's how it is, and it's just like a lot of drama, where one person is telling me one thing, another person's telling me another. Somebody's changing stories. Somebody's saying one thing that's not true, and you have to try to figure out who's telling the truth and who's lying, and it's very time-consuming. It's a very long, horrible, horrible thing, and I didn't have ice and food delivered yesterday. Basically, the volunteer didn't show up, and I was kind of trying to hash it out with the guy that's not repairing my skirting. And I kind of got mad and called back again, and I forgot, and all the stress. I said, well, I've got all the stress, and then the lady asked me about it, and she called me back 2 hours later from that office and said, you need me to bring you ice, and she brought me ice, which people like that, they really make your day, because people have been just really, really mean to me since my fridge has gone out, like, just mean, and, they've changed, kind of like, oh, kick her when she's down kind of thing. But it's people like that that just really make a difference. So now that stuff in there that I'm talking about getting ready to eat, and that piece of pepper, it's not going bad. It kind of is. I'm going to have to cut something off the pepper before I'm going to be able to actually eat it. But it is kind of going bad. But, you know, it's just so hard, and knowing that, like, my meal's not coming and my food isn't coming and worrying about it and all that. And I actually, Friday, I called 3 or 4 Section 8 offices in New Mexico to get back on their waiting list. And they no longer do waiting lists. They no longer take new people. That, you know, the whole thing's basically ending. And in Las Cruces, they no longer took vouchers for Section 8. Now, as you guys know, if you saw some of my older videos where I tried to rent, like here in Arizona, take my voucher and use it here in Arizona and call landlords, I was cursed out for 2 months straight and no one would take them here. So that program's basically being ended anyway. So it doesn't look like there's a way for me to, like, get back on the grid where I could plug in and just have a fridge and a little rental or something like that. There's not really a way to do it, really. So that makes it even more stressful because there's not an alternative for me. Because, like, being with the fibromyalgia and being, like, bedridden and stuff, I'm not really able to deal with this stuff. I'm not able to deal with it. And I've looked into hiring. I had quite a few people get nasty. You know, I'd call them and I'd tell them what I need. I need somebody to go to the store twice a week and get ice while they're there, and they're only buying a little bit of produce, and they like yell at me. And so I've been yelled at so much, and just unbelievable how people act. And this situation definitely isn't working. People have kind of said that, but they don't really offer anything else. They're just like, you know, you just have to stay, curl up, and die is basically what they're telling me to do. And like, a few people have said, yeah, contact Section 8. You know, they've said that for a while, and, you know, my caseworker here is like, oh, the Section 8 waiting list here, they don't have one anymore. Again, like, it's like what I encountered in New Mexico. But I told her, I said I wouldn't even consider trying here. You know, they have only smart meters, and, you know, New Mexico has some opt-out areas. So I could try in an opt-out area. There's one more opt-out area that I'm going to try, you know, and see. But the list is years long anyway if you do get on it. And there'd be no guarantee that I could find something that would be Wi-Fi free, which it has to be. So that's kind of where it's at. I wanted to share that, and I've been just really, really sick, and trying to deal with this actually made me sicker. You know, the stress levels are just amazing. Like, by 5, 6 o'clock each day, I can just feel my blood pressure really going over the top. My pain levels are going over the top. I'm usually in tears because my pain levels are going over the top. And I try to watch TV, but I'm too tired and too much pain to watch TV, so I go to sleep a little bit. And then I wake up and I watch one TV show, and then I have my meal, and end up losing it and falling asleep through another TV show. And people are like, how can you not have time to watch movies or read a book or anything? I don't really have time. It's like, basically, the situation siphons just every last bit of anything that I have. And it's just really, really, really hard. It's not easy. I mean, when I first moved off, yeah, everything was set up, and then as things go downhill and the problems happen, and more debt builds up, and more bills build up, and more problems build up, and they end up in a queue. And the roof that guy did is just, it's falling apart. It's completely failing. So that's happening too. That was a ripoff, a complete ripoff. Because, you know, as you remember, I took it to him, and he ended up just being a drunk, and I didn't have him do the rest of the work, like the heater. Rick and Rick's RV rescued it and took it from there. But it seemed like the roof was pretty good. I got nothing but comments on it until just recently, just this past month, and then the failure is starting to become noticeable, so it's been patched before any rain happens. I tried to get him to make good on it, to come and make good on his lifetime warranty, but no, you know, I'm not able to get him out here. So I'm going to have to, like, fight him on that. You know, it's just really, really ridiculous. So, I mean, it adds up. You just really can't do much. You can't do much at all. And the bills become harder and harder to pay every month that you're off grid. The amount becomes higher. It becomes higher. The amount of things that are going wrong and the amount of money that it costs and the amount of payments. So, I mean, I've just literally, I won't, there's no way that I'm going to put anything else on credit. No way, So it's like the fridge can't be on credit. It can't be. So it's just hard because I still need to eat. And it's hard. And people don't understand, like, oh, well, you should put it on credit. But I can't pay the credit I have now. I don't have enough left for food after I pay the credit that I have now and pay it on time and when I'm supposed to. And file bankruptcy so that they can take the trailer I'm living in away. That's like a really great idea. Then where do I sleep, under a tree when I can barely walk and I can't even get out of bed, and you expect me to live in a campground? And I can't deal with cold and elements, and I'm just pretty much, and then people say that I should go into hospice or a nursing home. But I know in the state of Arizona that unless you're incontinent, you don't get to go in a nursing home. So you can be really sick, but if you're not incontinent, you can't go in a nursing home. So, I mean, that kind of scratches that for me. And number two, I couldn't take the EMFs of immersing I have speech problems, from like when I'm around stuff, and I was around stuff like a couple weeks ago, a little bit, and so I've been having speech problems ever since. But I can't go into a care facility here, so just because of all that. And I would have a stroke probably within a couple of days and die anyway. So I just don't want to do that. I want a chance. I want the fair chance that I have to live and flourish and heal, which is what this was all about. And it occurred to me that, like, I don't think anybody else out there is like me, living off grid, I don't think so. And that's why I started this channel, because to take people along with me, to see, and maybe if I solved a problem or got through something, then somebody else could have hope. Originally, maybe so somebody else could try it, see if they wanted to do it. And I guess you guys that are in my boat, probably, and living on grid, probably don't want to do this, are probably seeing, like, maybe it's not such a great idea. And if I save you from hell, that's, great too, But that's basically like what it comes down to. I've kind of explained my ice. Now, one thing people have mentioned to me, like why I don't have any light on in here. I'm trying to have better light for my videos, but the heat rises, and why I don't have my ice at the top. I thought about it. Yeah, let's put the ice at the top. Well, for one, all those perishables are underneath. And you've got the condensation from the ice and the humidity, and that really spoils stuff faster, actually, than the heat. So I'm not getting, like, the condensation is staying at the bottom. And then number two, the more delicate stuff is on the shelf right above the ice. And the less delicate stuff, or the stuff that, like the cottage cheese that doesn't spoil as fast for some reason, is the open one is staying on the bottom. The ones that aren't open the open one is staying at the top because it's going to be thrown out soon because it's going to be eaten, and the non-open ones that I need to preserve a while are staying at the bottom. And so that hot air is going away from, like, my food. It's going to the top. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I figured the ice will melt faster. It won't last as long if I have it at the top where the hot air goes. So, I mean, I guess it works both ways. And then up there it's so small that it, makes a difference. And I really am not putting that much on top. So that's my take there with the ice. That's kind of how I figured it out. And it works easier that way. It's easier to place in and out. It works better. So that's what I'm doing right now on that. Another thing that's happened as well, you know, me being stuck here and all this, is there are upsides though. There really are. Today I woke up to no water. Turned on the tap, nothing came out. I was just really shocked, like, what's going on? And I turned on the water pump, and I've been rationing water. I've had water all day. Nobody in the area has water. I mean, the water system for the area has failed. It's not just my immediate, you know, landlord and people around me. It's the whole area. And so I'm being very careful with what I use, because it's like a pretty big failure. So I don't want to, you know, end up with no water. I am able to use the cooler. I'm able to use some things. But I'm just being like really, really careful. But, you know, I do have here tanky. So, I mean, there are some advantages to the off-grid life. I mean, there definitely are some. I just thought I'd throw that in too, you know, in the middle. And when I have a whole bucket list of things, I mean, you can see here in these piles of stuff that I was going to go through, and I just have like a lot of stuff to do. And I've got videos I'm backed up on posting. So while I'm sick, I'll just be doing that and posting, you know, my month of, you know, backed up videos. And then going from there. And then I'll be showing some new stuff of improvements that I had started on before all this got wacky, but kind of had to stop because I got so sick. So if you like it, like, subscribe, and share. And thank you for watching the whole thing, and have a really great evening.